All right. So yesterday I was on Jimmy Dore's show. Huge shout out to Jimmy. We were talking about Chicago politics as well as the potential of, you guessed it, the National Guard deployment and ICE and other federal agents being deployed to the city. Now, I'm going to flip a coin. It's 50-50, heads or tails. You pick. Does he send out the troops or does he not? But the way many of these politicians are posturing themselves, it does look like nothing may happen. But then again, this is Donald Trump we're talking about. And when it comes down to this city, if anyone wants to see if what he can do, especially Trump, was what he was able to pull off in DC, Chicago will be his biggest test because DC and Chicago are two different cities and the environments are completely different. This city is hyper segregated. And of course, you have to deal with the political machine that has been running Chicago for decades. Now, this city has its fair share of problems. This is abundantly true. And as I said before, and I'll keep on repeating this, perhaps maybe somebody from the Trump administration will kind of get what I'm trying to say here. And that is, if you are truly going to come to Chicago, if you are truly going to visit this city, if you're going to do what you say you're going to do, and that is stop crime, you go to the beating heart of where Chicago politics is at, and that is City Hall. Go ahead and arrest the criminal masterminds there in City Hall. That's if you got the nerve, Trump. I mean, it's one thing to go ahead and go after gangbangers and other criminal cartels and organizations that are in the city. Yes, the shootings is a real thing. I'm not going to deny that. That's a very real thing. And yes, I do question the numbers that Mayor Brandon Johnson has been touting, because it's not the first time a politician or anybody would lie to us with polling numbers. So I want to know, really, truly, if you're going to deal with crime, go to City Hall. But there's a talk here now where Trump's potential immigration crackdown, which is what he did in February, could be expecting to last more than just maybe a month. And if that's the case, if that truly does happen, if this is a situation in which we are going to be seeing Trump troop deployment lasting longer than a month, and perhaps Chicago being under occupation for far much longer, I want to pull up this article here from Black Club Chicago. So Chicago officials are bracing for federal agents to be deployed Friday in Chicago. So Friday is the day of all days. Friday. Good Friday. Same day for Archangel Judahiel, who is the archangel of judges and magistrates and kings. Anyways, I want to throw in that little tidbit of information. The agents are expected to focus on making immigration arrests and raids in and around Chicago, though President Donald Trump has said he is also considering sending the National Guard to the city as part of a crime crackdown. Those involved in immigration customs enforcement operations will likely be fully assembled on Friday, the governor told reporters at a news conference Wednesday afternoon, but it's not clear when the immigration operation will begin. Probably over the weekend. I'm willing to bet that. It doesn't mean there will be any action on Friday. I don't want to tell you that I know absolutely, because I haven't confirmed any of that to us. But we're hearing is that they'll be ready to go on Friday. The mayor of suburban Broadview, where ICE has a processing center for detained immigrants, sent a letter to neighbors on Tuesday, alerting them that federal officials have informed us that a large-scale enforcement campaign will soon be underway. And no, I don't expect Mayor Brandon Johnson or many of these aldermen or activists to be up and assembled, okay? I don't see them doing any roadblocks, and I want to make it very clear here. The Chicago Police Department does not have the authority to interfere with ICE operations. So, no, the CPD is not going to listen to the mayor and stop ICE operations. And while the mayor might sign an executive order, I think that executive order is nothing but talk, because ICE was here in February. That was just Trump testing the waters, and there was no pushback. All right. Tom Homan and Dr. Phil were here in my city in February. And how do I know that? I remember getting my hair cut. And I also remembered that Due Distance was even talking about it and covering it on their show. So what does that tell you? It tells you that the operations will begin. As I said on Jimmy Dore's show, it is inevitable. And as I covered on Labor Day, seeing all those activists and organizers, if you want to be consistent, you need to be protesting every single day. And every time I hear the chant of, we don't get it, shut it down, well, then your leaders need to start leading, okay? This is why I don't have much faith in the activist organizations here in Chicago, because if you're truly going to be assembling, where are your legions at? You just can't do it on a day off. You got to be consistent about it. You want to live up to the people of Haymarket when they got their heads caved in? You need to step up and show me your game. You need to step up and show me just what exactly are you willing to do. Because if you're not going to shut anything down, all what these are nothing but glorified parades. Let me tell you how I really feel. The operation is expected to run daily for about 45 days, and Broadview Immigration Facility will be the primary processing location, according to Mayor Katrina Thompson's letter. So, more than 200 agents, including some from Customs and Border Protection, are being sent to the Great Lakes Naval Base as part of operation, according to the Sun-Times' Violet Miller. More than 24 agents who are already at the Great Lakes Station have been seen practicing crowd control work using shields and flashbang grenades, sources told the Sun-Times. The New York Times reported that the Department of Homeland Security officials asked to use the naval station near North Chicago for operations that would house 250 personnel, including a tactical operations center, an incident command post, bathrooms, laundry, parking for more than 140 vehicles, storage for medical supplies, and less lethal weapons such as rubber bullets and tear gas. Oh, boy. Here we go. Here we go. It's a good mythical morning, right? And by the way, everybody, please be sure to hit the like button. I know that this is going to be a very challenging time, especially for people living in Chicago, but there are many groups and organizations that want this to happen too, especially on the South and West Side neighborhoods. As I covered, or as what was played on the Jimmy Dore show, videos showing people ducking down and taking cover with shootings happening on the South and West Side neighborhoods of Chicago. We all know how the media reacts to this, be it on traditional media such as television, cable, newspapers, and yes, now even online. This is just blood in the water to give more legitimacy to Trump wanting to do these crackdowns. And again, I will keep on repeating this. Go to City Hall first. All right. Now, the governor's office is making sure Chicago police and law enforcement are aware of the immigration authorities' plans so that they are not standing near those actions or assisting in those actions, but also ready for protests that may occur. Much to be desired from those protests. Nothing burgers. Local officials are working to protect people's safety, but cannot interfere with immigration enforcement operations, Pritzker said. We cannot stand in the way. What we're trying to do is to get them to follow the law, and when they're not following the law, take them to court and prosecute them if they've done something truly illegal. On Saturday, Johnson signed an executive order aimed at resisting federal agents should they appear. Yeah. Try enforcing it. In Chicago, officials have urged residents to prepare for demonstrations, but stressed the importance of peaceful protests. Pritzker warned Trump could seize on any confrontation to justify sending active troops in Chicago. Look, Monday, I covered the one protest over there at Trump Tower, saw the protest over there at Haymarket. It's all performative theater. All right. And the thing is, there's a difference between the protests that we see today than the protests and organizations that we saw in the 60s. All right. This is just a cheap imitation. And no, I don't see anything really happening with these protests and organizers. Okay. And more or less, to anyone that thinks that these Democrat lawmakers are going to step up and help, no, they're not. And to everyone who saw these speakers speak on Monday, on Labor Day, guess what? They're just going to talk. And talk and talk and talk. There's not going to be a lot of action being done. I want to pull up this video here because this is more of a response because Governor Pritzker meets with violence interrupters as Chicago prepares for possible federal troop deployment. So let's go ahead and pull up this video here. My apologies. Oops, let me go and get that set up.
The National Guard into Chicago to fight crime.
This afternoon, Vice President J.D. Vance was asked about the
Barnes Homestead. A lot of people were telling me in the live stream chat that I should have gone up there and take the mic. No, that's how you get in trouble, and that's also how you bring. Look. There's a lot of things I want to say. There's a lot of things that I feel that people should be prepared for when it comes down to what could happen during this month of September. But at this point, I am more focused on what's going to lay in store for this city in not next year, but the year after in 2027. As I said on Jimmy Dore's show, 2 districts on November 5th, 2024 were flipped red. That never happened before. Even Jimmy never heard of it before because that was something unheard of. Chicago is, and Chicagoans, dare I say it, are more upset with Mayor Brandon Johnson than any troop deployment here. There is a growing rage here in this city. This city is $1.1 billion in the hole. This city is going to implode if there isn't a drastic change in leadership and more importantly, taking care of the people. And I just want to point this out here again to all the people that wanted to make Chicago a sanctuary city. Look, I understand trying to help people. I get it. You know, there's a good feeling in trying to improve people's lives, us helping each other out. That's human nature. All right. It's what makes us who we are, to help. But I gave this warning. Is the city prepared to take on these immigrants coming in here? Does the city have enough resources to also provide resources for its people who've been living here for generations? And the sad fact is the city wasn't prepared. Sanctuary cities was something for feel-good points so everyone could make themselves think or feel that they were better than Donald Trump. And now, unfortunately, that's just one more dangerous explosive material that's going to cause the city to explode in rage and fury, because the city cannot take care of the immigrants. The city cannot take care of the homeless. The city cannot take care of working class families struggling day in, day out with every single day passing by.
President's plans.
The president said he'd be sending in the National Guard to Chicago. Do you know how many members of the National Guard or when exactly that's going to happen?
I'll let the president speak to that. I mean, look, there are no immediate plans, but the president has said he has the legal authority to protect American citizens, whether that's in Chicago or Washington, D.C.
President Trump also walked back his earlier statements. He told reporters today that he is still trying to determine if he will send Guard members into Chicago, and he indicated he might deploy troops to New Orleans instead. Despite the mixed messaging, Governor J.B. Pritzker says he is still preparing for a possible deployment. Sarah Maki is in Pilsen, where the governor spoke about his plans.
There continues to be no communication between the governor's office and the White House. Pritzker explaining it this way. He says if the White House sends federal National Guard members to Chicago, Pritzker's office will sue. And he thinks any phone call could be entered as evidence, as some sort of appeal for help, leaving uncertainty about what's happening now and next.
It looks like they're going to be fully assembled on Friday. It doesn't mean they're going to be in action on Friday, although that could happen.
Governor J.B. Pritzker saying he believes the National Guard is preparing for operations in Chicago.
We're not going to get any help from Washington. In fact, they're going to do the opposite. And what we can do is hold the line.
Meeting with organizers at Metropolitan Peace Initiative as they run table exercises and trainings to learn how to encounter federal agents should they come across them in Chicago, whether it's National Guard service members or immigration enforcement.
We've asked for the public to be ready with your iPhone and any way that you can to record what's going on in their neighborhoods by ICE.
The governor saying Illinois law enforcement cannot stand between National Guard members and civilians, but the state would initiate lawsuits.
Okay, so great. All they got is lawsuits, 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 lawsuits. Isn't that a fun word? Lawsuit, lawsuit, lawsuit. Stupid, pointless, dumb, and a waste of time. Look, Trump's going to get what he wants, but also Mayor Brandon Johnson, in my opinion, will be a one-term mayor. But as for Pritzker, this is going to be a test for him, because he is slated as one of the many potential challengers in the 2028 Democratic primary. How Pritzker handles this is going to be reflective in regards to whether or not he will actually run in the 2028 Democrat primary. And it'll be a test of his governorship as well. So for everyone that's watching this right now, let's make this extremely, extremely clear. This is a true test and challenge from Trump to all these major Democrat cities. And Chicago is going to be the first one on the list because, as we all know, the machine, the infamous machine, started way back when old man Daley got into office. If you look at Chicago and the Democratic Party, it's like two peas in a pod.
The president is begging me to call him to ask him to do something that we don't want.
Though he would support certain federal help.
I have been very clear about what we do want. What we do want is civilian law enforcement assistance. We want to make sure that we have enough FBI, ATF, DEA on the ground.
Let's rewind that again. Did you hear that? So everyone that was, posturing, saying you can't come to the city, he's asking for civilian federal law enforcement.
What we do want is civilian law enforcement assistance. We want to make sure that we have enough FBI, ATF, DEA on the ground. We have some already, as you know.
Yesterday, Pritzker said that he has had reports that the Texas National Guard is preparing to come to Illinois. a claim that Governor Greg Abbott from Texas, his office denied again today. Pritzker saying, though, it is possible that they were sent without Abbott's approval, another uncertainty we are continuing to follow. From Pilsen Saramaki, CBS News, Chicago.
Okay. So what can we take away from this? Well, here's how Chicago is preparing for the National Guard deployment. So as we all know, Pritzker and the mayor are warning Chicagoans that this is going to happen, and it looks like it's going to be taking place on Friday, or at least the immediate mobilization. I'm preparing to see, and we will witness as well, the full-on mobilization of these troops and agents sometime over the weekend. Don't be surprised they start either on Sunday or, hey, why not on the Monday mornings? Why not? So meanwhile, there are no immediate plans to send at least National Guard troops into Chicago. It is by far an option that's on the table. So what's the real fight? Well, it's not going to be in the streets. I don't see the glorified parades stopping ICE. I don't see the glorified parades stopping any kind of National Guard deployment. And it wouldn't be the first time the National Guard was deployed here in Chicago, especially if we wind back the clocks to COVID. I remember those days. So the state, as it stands right now, which is interesting, will not file a lawsuit against the administration until it knows Trump's justification for deployment. That means the deployment of troops. But Pritzker is saying that we will absolutely go into court. Oh, what a wonderful waste of time. Going to court. Illinois has already proven its willingness to combat federal actions in court, joining a multi-state lawsuit, against the administration's effort to cut off federal relief, including for Head Start school programs and domestic violence shelters for people who cannot prove they have legal status to be in the United States. President Trump's plan is not only a bad strategy, but it's illegal, said the Illinois Attorney General of the expected National Guard deployment. To protect himself legally, Pritzker is not calling the president to discuss the situation. Well, you got to somehow sooner or later talk to the president. Somebody's got to talk to the president. Trump is going to end up in court. Oh, boy, that's Trump's backyard. And that will be a fact that they will use in court, that the governor called to ask for help. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to provide him with evidence to support his desire to have the court rule in his favor. Eye contact. Look at me. That is Donald Trump's territory. He knows too well how to survive the courtroom, okay? Attack, attack, attack. Torah, Torah, Torah. So what's the takeaway? Well, Hard Lens Media, we are reaching out to a lot of groups and people that are, keeping an eye out, like the real legit people who know what's going on in the city, okay? Who know what's happening on the ground. And more importantly, we, as an independent media organization, will be definitely covering this. Now, we find this to be a very important use of our time and energy, because this is severely going to be a big ripple effect, not only in the midterm election cycle of next year, but going into 2027. And so I invite anyone in independent media to collaborate and join Hard Lens Media as we cover this. There's no excuse. No excuse not to talk about this. No excuse not to be involved in this. There's no excuse. We will be talking about this more. And I just want to point this out, that we were the first ones to say that, yes, Chicago was going to be next. As soon as Trump did his move in D.C., I knew right then and there that this city was going to be next on his list. Will the National Guard be deployed, though, will be the big question. But Donald Trump has made it abundantly clear that he has his eyes on Chicago. And if he really wants to destroy his political rivals in the Democrat Party, this is how you do it. And the sad truth is that there's a lot of anger and rage towards the political system in City Hall. To which, again, I will say, if you want to really stop the criminal actions in Chicago, go to City Hall. The system is designed this way, and our politicians have abandoned many of our districts in Chicago because it's profitable for there to be violence and corruption and a lack of opportunities. The system that's here in City Hall in Chicago, that's been ruling over for decades, is designed this way. So if Trump is truly serious, he doesn't need to go to the street corners first. Go to City Hall. Otherwise, you are wasting everybody's time.